We'll get started. So we just hit 12, top of the hour. Yeah. Thanks for everyone joining. So let's see, we've got Arafa as well as Jim. So thanks both for joining. Because we'll have fully jam-packed agenda today, and we've got 2 demos as well from our community. So really looking forward to that. And hearing what people are building. And there's a bunch of announcements in the past 48 hours. We were away on Melbourne Cup. There's a OpenAI Dev Day the other day, and there's a new blog post just dropped as well. So yeah, you pretty much just the moral story is that you cannot, be left behind. As soon as you actually take a day off, there's another announcement, a set of another announcement that will change everything. But yeah, okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to Semantic Kernel public office hours for the APAC and ANZ region, 8th of November. Again, just to remind everyone, this is public, so this will be recorded and will be posted online. So there will be, just make sure that you don't share any confidential or any private information in this forum. So as usual, I'll go with our acknowledging countries, and then we'll go straight to the content.
We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live and work throughout Australia, as well as the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people viewing this event today. We pay our respects to elders, both past, present, and emerging, and recognise and celebrate their continuing connection to land, waters, and community. Our reverence also extends to all First Nation and Indigenous peoples, as well as their ancestral lands.
We acknowledge the Tangata Whenua, the Indigenous people of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and their enduring connection to the land, waterways, and culture. We pay our respects to their ancestors, their current leaders, and their future generations. We recognize the rich heritage of the Maori people and honor the importance of their language, traditions, and customs in shaping the identity of this country. All right, let's move on. Welcome to the NZ Semantic Kernel. We've run 4 and 5, including this one, the 5th session of the APAC office hours. This occurs every fortnight, every other week, and you can download the calendar as well as the recording. I think that one is a link to the recording. Just go to that. If you want to view the previous recording of previous sessions, that includes all the office hours that were run, including the APAC as well as the EMEA, American Europe time zone. So feel free to check that out if you haven't. Yeah, so let me just go straight. I thought that one will go straight to the new announcements. I guess the big announcement that just announced earlier, or maybe last week, this one was V1. So currently we're in kind of V1 beta. We announced the beta launch of Semantic Kernel version 1, and there was in the discussion board in the Discord, there was a set of announcements and also a set of discussions around how we want to build Semantic Kernel, what are the main changes that will occur in V1, and that potentially might a bit drastically, but maybe somewhat change with the announcements of OpenAI Dev Day as well, a couple of days ago, during, again, Melbourne Cup, and that was a big announcement, and we're gonna, I guess, touch base a little bit on that, but you can find more details on this. But the key thing is that the bunch of announcements around simplifying the core of Semantic Kernel. So around the lightweight aspect of Semantic Kernel and how we can ensure that we can run and use Semantic Kernel as our runtime for our LLM. And expose everything through the power of semantic, or full power of LLMs through semantic functions. Again, you know what semantic functions are, and how they basically able to give you ability to catalog or provide you with a list of powerful plugins that can be used for your planner. And then around improvement on the effectiveness of semantic kernel planners, how you use semantic kernel planners and best ways to leverage that. And there's some discussions in that. And we're gonna spend a bit of time later on just to go through those changes or those proposal and provide a compelling reason to use the kernel. And basically in each section they describe the key challenges and the key challenges that they're trying to address, as well as how we propose to fix them. So yeah, so definitely if you haven't checked that out, please do. And we're gonna have a bit of time later on to talk about that. Another thing that we just come across recently, again, is around the OpenAI Dev Day. So there was a big announcement for those of you missed out on that announcement. I was included in that missing out because I was away yesterday. It's around how we plan to integrate semantic kernel with OpenAI capabilities that are included around function canneling, around how you manage chat history, multimodal support, as well as more control over memory. That was something that was included within OpenAI Assistance API, and that is a big announcement that was made there. And this blog post basically talks about how semantic kernel can work with the new Assistance API within OpenAI. So that is a big announcement. If anyone wants to talk about that, please do so and just let me know. The other thing that we talked about was autogen agents. So John just posted a pretty good blog post around. There's a lot of discussions in the chatters within the Discord community around how do we use autogen, how do we use semantic kernel, how do they operate together, and basically this blog post kind of clarifies that that it's not trying to compete, it's more of a complementary type framework that can work together. So if you think of autogen as like your P2P type implementation, whereas semantic kernel is like that single agent that has the different set of plugins or different set of tools that allow you to orchestrate your your LLM, guide your LLM in different directions. So in a summary, right? So if you need agents that need to collaborate with each other, use agents, as in use auto agent, right? So if you need to get the agents to kind of work together and provide that freedom for those agents to actually give you different set of outputs, then use autogen. But if you need agents that kind of at the top and be able to orchestrate different set of steps that are you basically authorizing them to do that, use plugins, then use semantic kernel. But if you need agents to collaborate with each other with plugins, then use both. So that's kind of the summary at a high level on how you do it. But definitely it's an interesting space to be in. But again, that's a Microsoft research project. There is a Discord community as well on that. If you haven't joined, feel free to do that. That talks about the community kind of talked about the different features and how they implement that. Various features there. Anyone want to add anything on this kind of the key big announcements?
I have so much to add, but we'll probably just let it play out.
Okay, cool. All right. New videos as well. So there's a great set of new videos. There's basically 2 URLs, and this one is more on the office hours one. I haven't actually pasted the project one, but so there's basically a playlist for projects. So anything that we're going to be demoing here today, Jim and Rafat will demo today will be in the playlist of projects, and then anything that demoed either by project team or the office hours will be in that URL in the QR code that you can see there on the screen. And there's a really interesting take on Semantic Kernel, how do you build copilots in AI conference, where Alex talked about his take on how you build copilots, what are the challenges, what are the kind of the industry challenges around, and what sort of approaches that you could take on that. So that was pretty interesting take on Semantic Kernel. Our Azure API management project team, I think product manager in that, talk about the integration with SK and Azure API management. That's also very interesting insight. And this is kind of come down to previous conversations that we had in the past office hours, talked about, hey, how do I build applications? What sort of architecture that I should use? And Semantic Kernel kind of gives you basically a dev focus tool, not necessarily looking at the architectural or infrastructure point of view around how you build your application leveraging Semantic Kernel. And we did suggest that as well, to see if anyone from the community or from the project team wanting to contribute to like I don't know, we call it like reference, architecture or reference internal architecture or infrastructure architecture that leverages the Semantic Kernel and then leverages, different set of services like Azure and so on. But this talks about how you integrate API management and how you manage the APIs, similar to how you build APIs and how you manage and centralize those management of those APIs in SK. So that was a pretty good video on that. OpenAI function calling in Python. So again, there's a lot of, I guess, in this community, I'm assuming that most people are using .NET. But for those of you already who are familiar with Python, definitely check that out because it talks about the samples for Python, similar to the sample that we ran for .NET for OpenAI function calling. And then finally, thanks to Brady, the past couple of weeks, I think he did in the past session, he did a demo on Timesheet GPT, so his project, which again, if you haven't checked that out, please go and find out that demo, because that was pretty interesting, and I think he shared his code as well, open source. So if you have any suggestions and so on, please do so. Submit. Okay. Alrighty. Right, we'll go straight to demos and then we'll do a Q&A. If okay with you, Jim, I'd like to sort of introduce you to the community. Jim Taylor like to showcase his project recently, a use case of internal knowledge search using SK with Qdrant as the vector database, where he's written sort of content importers to pull in data from different sources like Outlook, SQL, video, file system, and different data sources. Yeah, so Jim, if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah, I'll get stuck in. Excuse the low-tech presentation, but just if I just state the problem first, it's kind of the usual problem with in a busy consultancy. You have information in little silos all across your organization. So you've got the product team, we've got our own technical documents for our development work. We have the architecture team, keep all of their notes in Obsidian. which stores things in Markdown. People have bits of information they've collected in files on disk. We've got customer support emails, which might contain information that might help customer support people deal with issues. We have products, websites with information on, and internal help articles, some of which stored in SQL. So it's everywhere, and trying to get the whole business to kind of circle in on one source of truth for that, it's kind of impossible. So we wanted to find a solution to make it easy for somebody to just go and say, hey, I've got a problem, I need to find some information, go find it for me. So it's a very simple use case of, you know, grab all of the information, make it available via a web interface, and then put it into a vector database so that it can be searched. So we sort of got this notion of content source providers. They're just a way to extract content from file system sources. So we use Xseed and iText Sharp to read the text content from Word and PDF docs. Any text file formats immediately easy to use. We also have a lot of handover videos and training videos. So when the file system content provider encounters a video file, it will call an API and use transcription using Whisper. So it will get the transcription, and then we use GPT to actually clean it up so that we can remove filler words like that kind of thing. So we've got importers for Outlook, SQL, and websites. So we've got a web scraper using scraping B, and then we'll also in future be able to add connectors for Teams files and SharePoint lists. So I can just show, we've got like a simple console app. Just way to add a content source. So I'm going to add a file system. I'm just going to copy that. Okay, directory is added. I'm now going to run the embeddings for that, and I will show the code. So bear with. I've got a file system content provider. So all that's doing now it's processing is basically iterating through each of the files in the directory and getting the content. Usages. And we have this function here called build embeddings for content provider. And that is saving the information to the vector database here. But I suppose what I should show is the, oh, that's finished running. I should show what we've got running in the background. Is I've got this vector database here running in Docker, and we've got this collection here, which is where these files have been placed. So I've got, before I started, I've got this file system that I've just added, plus we've also scraped our Eva check-in product website. So I should now be able to run the web application and do a search on that. So I'll stop the console and go over to the UI. In terms of how we're using Semantic Kernel, we have a service that we use to build the kernel. So we just basically use the kernel builder from Semantic Kernel, and we wire up the chat completion service, OpenAI text embedding service, so passing it the configured keys, and then we wire it up to the Quadrant memory store. You can also swap this out for the Azure Cognitive Search memory store as well. So in terms of how we're using this, there's not much complexity to it. We have a system prompt, master prompt that we have, and the master prompt is so along the lines of, you are an AI system that helps people find information from the search results, and then we just give it enough background and information to tell it about the types of information that it's dealing with, so it has enough context, and then we just tell it a few things. You know, don't need to mention your knowledge cutoff, no need to disclose that you're an AI, treat me as an expert, be accurate and thorough, only use the information provided in the search results. That's an attempt to make sure that it's grounded on the data. And then, you know, if there's not enough information, make some suggestions for better search terms. So the UI has come up. Just do. All right. So you can see that what we've done here is the vector search has pulled back relevant documents based on the vector database search. So it's got like a relevance score there. Then if we want to, we can actually click through and link to the information that we are after. If, you know, the information here is not sufficient, we can go to the original source document. So in the case of a file system or an Outlook message, it will also launch the individual email message, or if that file system was from your system, it will launch the file on your desktop. So one place to go to find information from lots of different places. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so that connections to kind of different data sources and so on, that's kind of built in. You've already kind of provided that in the configuration.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of a simple RAG kind of application here. So when we get the when we get the answer, we do a vector search, we add the article text into the kernel, and then we basically stream the response back to the user. So the first chunk that we send back is the information about the articles that we found. And then the chat response that we get back from the Open API client provider is streamed back to the user. And then in the client side code, we open up a stream reader. So we basically do a fetch, we get the stream reader, we read the first chunk, which is the information about the articles, and then while the stream is being read, we just basically outputting the answers as they go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Perfect. Yep. I think yes, Sarah, I think just mentioned about you leveraging kernel memory, right, for this.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Cool. Any questions from anyone from the community?
Yeah, I've got a question if I may. It's Glenn here.
Right, Glenn.
Jim, thanks for the demo. That's great. I'm interested in how are you orchestrating these different sources? So if a user's question is best served from one set of sources as opposed to another, rather than calling into all of your sources every time, are you using Planner in any way for that, or how does that orchestration work?
I'm not currently using Planner in a different branch to this. I have the notion of different collections of information. So the architecture practice might have their set of information. The dynamics team will have their set, and then the product team will have the customer support team for the product will have their set as well. And so at the moment, I've just got you as a user will probably know which kind of collection is appropriate to your role. We could in future have a general purpose kind of search, which is find anywhere and then use the planner to then search within a particular vector database collection. So the answer is not at the moment, but that's something that we could do using the planner.
Yeah, got it. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can sneak in one more question. Hopefully my token count is not used up yet. Well, quickly, how are you managing cat history there? This concept that's been bugging me is this idea of an ongoing conversation with a user, where a user asks a question, your agent answers the question, but then the user asks a subsequent question that relies on the prior knowledge of the chat history. So they might use pronouns to say, yeah, okay, of those results, can you filter it down by X? Do you face that scenario at all?
Yes, that's at the moment, this is a one-shot search and retrieve. The next plan is that we actually treat each one of those as a conversation, and if you want to do a next search, you can basically click new and it will do a fresh search with a fresh set of context. So the plan is that when you call this at first, it will do the search, and then the follow-on conversations will be based on that. And then the plan is to look at get the kind of intent of the user and find out whether they're asking for different content or an elaboration on the existing information, or whether it needs to go and fetch more information to help that user's query. So it's a proof of concept at the moment, and we're looking at things like that as well, but that's how we're planning to approach it. So
I'm just going to add on to Glenn's question and your answer, because it's something that I don't have the answer either, by the way, but yeah, it's something I think about all the time, is that if you're using something like vector search, Azure Search, to go and, I guess, query a whole lot of content which semantically makes sense, then it's easy then to go, or it makes sense to go and get the right bit, stuff in the prompt, generate an answer. But when you're going, and there's a couple of questions in the comments about it. If you're going and hitting like CSV or a database, for example, and converting a query to, or converting a natural language query to a query, hitting that database, or you've got multiple collections like you were just talking about, Jim. Yeah, that idea of maybe having a step first with a stepwise planner or something, which goes and hits a meta index or something to go and figure out where to go, because otherwise it's like the idea of doing Excel spreadsheets or CSV, like, how would you know which one to go to, especially when they're just numbers? So you need meta tags, memory tags, or another index to figure out which one to go to, and so this search continues for an answer for that one.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I just want to add just a little bit on Cole. Just raised a question about whether code interpreter will be updated completely outside of this project. But yeah, there's a link to the discussion board for you to check it out and raise your questions on V1. Okay, thank you very much, Jim. Was there anything else before we move on to the next demo? Okay, right. I'll let you to take away straight away, Arafat. If you want to go ahead and demo your recent blog posts, or you already posted around guess what application, which is again, quick intro. Arafat is a solution architect at EY and MVP based in Sydney. So he's done a lot of community work around AI. So keen to hear what his recent creation on SK is. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I'll share my screen. Thanks for the introduction and brilliant demo, Jim. I wish I could present something similar, but yeah, a little bit of background before I get into this. So, as Vic has mentioned, so I'm Arafat, but I'm also a host of 2 different community events over here in Sydney. So I run, or I co-run, Azure Sydney user group. So if you are based in Sydney and if you would like to come, please join us. We bring in a lot of folks from Microsoft, but also from the community as well. And what we usually focus is on the app dev part of it and the AI aspect of Azure. So when I was giving a talk in one of the graph database meetup, although it was not related to Azure, but they asked me to talk about a lot on Azure OpenAI, because that was the time when they started talking about it much more enthusiastically. When I say they means Microsoft. So they started talking to me about .NET stuff, mostly the audience. And I used to get a lot of questions on how do we use it. Then I decided to create a project myself specifically for .NET. I've got a strong .NET background as well, so I'm very basic in Python. So whenever you used to see something like this, which you see right now, a Jupyter notebook, I used to get upset about this, that we don't have any .NET support on that, and just because of the nature of how the notebooks used to run. Thanks to the polyglot notebooks now, so we can run all of this with multiple languages as well. So what I decided, that rather than going with the notebook path, I should create an end-to-end solution to show .NET developers how they can really use all of these technologies. By the time Semantic Kernel came in, so I thought that let's start using Semantic Kernels. And I created this generative AI repo, so you can go over there, if you like it. This is basically for the basic starters. However, I'm aiming to keep it as clean as it can be, and would like your contribution as well. If you are good at Python, I still have a lot to cover in Python. I'm super basic in Python, so I did create this for Python stuff, like, but you can see that coming soon with an example, coming soon with an example. However, I'm trying to just write it back, whatever I've written in C#. Yes, I can use ChatGPT or other OpenAI models to convert it, but I want to be clean for the basic developers or the new developers. So my target audience is a person who is just started or who has just started or a junior developer. As soon as I went with the semantic kernel route, so I thought that I should create both the notebooks. So I've created Azure OpenAI notebook, semantic kernel notebook. I decided to create just the notebook in the start, but then I moved towards my end-to-end solution. The end-to-end solution, as Vic has mentioned, so I thought of creating an app called Guess What. It's in private repo right now. The reason why I've kept it private because I'm polishing the docs and other stuff. So definitely I'll be open sourcing it. If you want to be a part of it, you want early access, please message me. I'll give you. So like nothing hidden. It's just for the community as well. I have written a whole blog post of this. This is the basic architecture of this. So .NET MAUI app, talking to semantic kernel, getting riddles generated out of GPT 3.5 or GPT 4 based upon whatever you like, and then get the landmark from Dolly 2 and guess it using cosine similarity, just very basic stuff. And also, like, I've written down everything or how I've created this with some interesting concepts defined in the easiest possible manner so that people can look at it. So, but rather than going into the screenshots, I'll show you what it is, and then I'll jump into the code as well. So this is the app, very basic. And since I'm not a UX person, so please excuse any UX stuff if you think that they are absolutely wrong. So in settings, you are just defining your keys, your endpoints, and other stuff. And when you click on riddle, it tries to create a riddle, and then you just have to answer that riddle. So this is my this is live, so this is not recorded. So this is my phone. You may see something popping up as well. So I speak without a mic and hear without a nose. And if I say a sound or something, it will just go and see. The answer is an echo, and since the cosine similarity of this is 86%, so it is correct. If I click refresh, it would just go and bring up anything else. So if I write, let's say, I don't know, then it would say maybe if the cosine similarity matches, then it would say yes. Otherwise, it would say wrong because it's a pencil. The idea of this is to, of course, increase it, add some gamification to it, but this was just a start. And then you can go on. You will never see a repetition of it because I'm keeping the history in a very basic or beginner manner, how we would keep the history in the prompts, and I'll talk about it in a bit. When you go to the landmarks, so you have to choose a country. So let's say I'm choosing a country as Australia, and the list of countries you see over there is basically the top 100 countries based upon their population. So I did not want to take all of those countries. So if anybody is from the country which are not from the top 100 ones, I apologize, but I had to just restrict those country list. So if I say Sydney Opera House, then it would just give me this. I know that I have to fix this, but yeah. So this is the description which has been generated by when we created when we received the image from Dolly, and it is matching this text with this text, which is the image written, which is the description written from the response. And then, of course, again, as I said, you can go back and choose, let's say, any other country name, and then it will give you a landmark of that as well. So this is just a start. There will be, I have got some more ideas, but happy to take more ideas from you as well. How can we improve using semantic kernel? So the basic idea is to use semantic kernel rather than showing you the fancy way of it. How can we improve it, and what else we can add? So of course, new models coming up, let's say GPT-4 with vision. So we can add one more capability. This is what I was thinking this morning, that we would allow user to upload an image and ask a riddle around that as well. So like you have uploaded an image of an apple, so the riddle or something will be asked around the apple or the opposite of apple or any other fruit. So yeah, this is it. So I'll walk you through the code as well. So nothing super fancy, very basic stuff of anybody has worked, if anybody has worked on the .NET MAUI or Xamarin or I would say MVVM broadly. The good part of, so this is running on .NET 8, by the way. So if anybody has run on .NET 7 as well, .NET MAUI specifically, the good part of .NET MAUI 7 and 8 is that now we have the capability of dependency injection. This has made our life easier. So you can invoke anything from any class. The way I've written these functions are, I know, quite basic, but I did not want to deviate from what is defined over here. So because the main reason is to educate young developers. And if I were to go and talk about what, let's say, Alex has been showing so far in his YouTube videos, which is a little different than these, because they are still working on improving the documents or documentation. So I'm trying to keep myself stick to the documentation side. So it's just a basic SK service, which is doing all the magic. Apart from that is the basic code in, let's say, in country page and all other stuff. So very basic startup project, but once I'm done with the documentation, I'll be happy to just public the repo. That's it from my end. And anybody has any questions?
Brilliant demo, and provide different way of sort of demonstrating the ability of SK. So well done on that. Yeah, any questions from the community? I guess a quick one from me. It's just really around around the the use of LLM and how easy it is. What's your overall experience of SK?
Yeah, so I think documentation helped me a lot because they really invested good time in it. I think so. My way of starting is to just go through the documentation first rather than jumping into the notebooks. I found a couple of issues, notebook, submitted my PR, and then got accepted over there as well. So specifically around Azure OpenAI, the notebooks were lacking, I think, the endpoints, which I struggled because I did not know. So that's why I was saying that it's a good way to start with the documentation as what I do. I found it easier coming from someone who's from the .NET background. I would never I started learning about LangChain and other stuff. When I learned more about SK, then it started making more sense for me to grasp that concept in LangChain. So people usually come from the other side of the world. So in a nutshell, I think it was easier for me, and someone who has not worked before, like, yes, we have worked in Azure OpenAI service in doing all of that, drag patterns and other stuff, but this was a little different approach than injecting something or using cognitive search or any other like any other technology. This brings to me a question in my mind from Jim, but I'll ask you, Jim, later on. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you could just dive in just a little bit more on how you do the image generation. like what libraries you were making use of.
Oh, image generation. So that's basically, I'm not using any other library to generate an image. It's SK, by the way. So SK provides you the image generation interface. That interface is called image generation, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, that's the one. So
is it using DALL-E 2 or
yep,
DALL-E?
DALL-E 2. Yeah, DALL-E
Yep.
2. DALL-E 2. Yeah. I don't think that I've gotten access to DALL-E 2 yet.
Right.
So or DALL-E 3 yet. But yeah, if it would be DALL-E 3, then my cases of these would increase rather than just riddles or landmarks.
Do we have any information on when DALL-E 3 might be available through Semantic Kernel?
I think question for Vic or
yeah.
So that's a Semantic Kernel already supports DALL-E 2 and 3, but it's the model availability through Azure OpenAI that I think you're probably asking about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a TBC. TBC. DALL-E 2 already is available through Azure OpenAI service. So you just add a new kernel service, the image service, and choose a model deployment, etc. But yeah, the TBC. We're being recorded, so TBC.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and also there's a project roadmap as well. I'll just post it in the in terms of SK. I'll put it in the chat for reference, and that's public too. Yep. Excellent. Fantastic demo. I really like that. It's simple and but at the same time it's providing you a diverse set of capabilities.
I really wanted to deploy it on iPhone as well. It's just that the nature of the account, you can deploy it through your Windows machine, but you need to have a pro developer account for that.
Yeah. It's a bit like that with Apple, right? So yeah.
I have got a question for Jim, if I may ask.
Yep.
Jim, how did you find, and coming back to your demo, so how did you find did you compare Quadrant with cognitive search or not yet?
Not yet, but as I'm getting ready to do take this into production and make it cloud ready, I've got to evaluate it actually.
Okay.
Because I've got to get any service that we use through all the security audits and everything like that, and so it might, as it might be that it's a bit more straightforward to get that through with with the Microsoft-based thing, but I think it's a straight swap out.
Why do you ask?
There has been a lot of questions coming in from different people as well as clients. So yeah, I just wanted to know, because I've not done this exercise myself. So if somebody has done it, keen to know like what are the difference and why do you see it as a better way of doing it, if it is a better way of doing it, because internally we have been using cognitive search.
Yeah, I don't know the answer, but I'm interested as well. Wondering why you're asking. Cool.
Yeah. So there was a recording from Davis that talked about kernel memory. It was supposed to be known as semantic memory.
Yeah.
And they talked a little bit about cognitive search and other vector DBs around kind of the limitations and kind of the a number of indexes that you can actually create and so on. Not sure if you have to check that out. Would be good.
Yeah, no, good call. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Yeah, I'm super interested, Vic, in how assistance changes that kind of discussion. Like if it's really, on one hand, it's really nice that this but this is all based on watching a presentation yesterday. But if there's this black box that takes care of all the memory, long-term, short-term retrieval stuff, and handling all the chunking vector searches for us, that's cool because I can concentrate on making my solution.
Yeah.
For the problem domain it's addressing, but are these kind of conversations about, hey, is this a different, this vector search better over this one, or have you tried overlapping chunking? Does that go away? I mean, do you not have that control anymore? So that's the stuff I'm really interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good call. Yeah, that was obviously a very hot off the press type thing, and also it's applicable to OpenAI at this stage only, right? So that's capability that's specific to OpenAI. So keen to see what's how's that going to impact the LM, especially Azure OpenAI and so on. Yeah, we haven't got any insights on that. But yeah, so definitely check the blog, around some of the discussions board as well that Matthew kind of put out. They keen to hear feedback, and they wanted to actually incorporate as much as they can. If not for V1, it will be after that. Yeah, really good call.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Fantastic demo again. Any other questions or last minute questions before we move on to Q&A? I've got about 9 minutes for Q&A. All good?
Yes.
All right, so
there's-
let me
there's
just...
Max has a question. Hands up, Max.
Oh, yeah.
Max, go for
You
it.
guys,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Max.
sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So I had a question about how to. So I noticed that the kernel memory, the plugin that you guys have, as well as there's the samples that shows us creating a skill. It's the chat console that uses a skill and it sends the history through that, as well as I saw another sample that also is a console, but does it through the context variables. Which do you guys recommend? So that would be the first question. I have other ones too, and trying to use it. I realize there are differences between them, especially with the plug-in memory where you can do the embedding versus the other ones are just text-based.
Yeah, is that related to the demo that Rafat just mentioned, or Rafat just demonstrated, or more generic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question really is that which do you guys recommend for normal chat applications?
Okay.
So you're saying normal chat applications, should you pass the chat history through as a context?
Right.
Versus, I think that's actually worth looking at that blog post from Matthew,
Yeah.
because the way it's done now is actually going to probably change with V1, and it's probably worth looking at because they are going to simplify things. Right now, there's a bit of ceremony involved. There are specific functions for passing that through. And yeah, I'll chuck the URL for that. Yeah, because I think it is worth doing what they're going to plan for. Oh, here we go. Nick's already got it.
Oh, okay.
So that
Yeah,
first question is
interested
this
in
one
that.
here. Yeah, that might be interested to check out. But
Okay.
yeah, it's yeah.
So thank you for this. I definitely will look into that. The second question follow-up is that, so if we're sending chat history back and forth, and let's say the chat gets pretty long, especially because you could save the chat and then rehydrate and stuff, and continue later on. Sending the chat history for every request is, and let's say you got a couple of megs or even more than that, it becomes really, really huge. How do you guys recommend doing that? Do you recommend actually not using the context stuff and just go through the memory so you can, based on the user's question, you could do similarity searches to figure out what part of this history to send?
Yeah, so this 1.3 there, it's kind of relevant to that question, but in terms of kind of defining when is the cutoff method, in the chat copilot reference application, there is a there's a like a counter for context, and it comes down to kind of the LM token limit that you have, as to how much you want to use that. We expose the tools to allow you to give you flexibility on basically do a search using kernel memory to do that. So yeah, the token count and so on, that will play a role on whether you want to use memory, kernel memory, or using the chat session and retrieve the history that way.
Okay.
Yeah, and like there's this concept of like kind of short term, long term, and then like kind of document storage. So and it's depending on. So you can kind of have really fast access to short term, or but it's all being in the chat Copilot reference implementation. It'll treat it in the same way as a document, so you can like throw it into like Azure Search and use that
Okay.
index to be able to pull it out. But yeah, check that out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. So we got a question here from Peng Cheng. I don't know if Peng Cheng is online. Yeah, it's talking about a way to format output from a semantic function. It would be nice to define that in the config.json. Also, he has a question around, is it possible to use OpenAI's function calling to get structured output in semantic function, right? Yeah, so I think they're two kind of different way to approach things. Semantic function is basically capability of the semantic kernel that allows you to kind of guide the LLM to do certain things using natural language. And if you want to format the output of that, I can't think of any way at the moment with the current capabilities whether we can actually say output JSON or output XML or YAML or whatever, right? You might if you haven't tried, you might want to use that instruction within within that instruction itself within the escape prompt to basically say, hey, provide the output in a particular format. So you can be explicit in that sense. The OpenAI function calling, my understanding is that it's it's basically because OpenAI has this unique feature that allows you to do function calling. Then we already have native functions within semantic kernel that basically more closely related to native functions rather than semantic function. But you could potentially stitch them together and just say list all the functions from OpenAI function calling, and then add another function in your planner to basically do a sequential planner using sequential or stepwise to be able to interconnect those functions. Yeah, that's just probably a very complex way of describing it. Yeah,
it's probably worth watching the video on function calling on Alex's channel. He did an interview with one of the semantic kernel team who implemented function calling, and she ran through a bunch of demos on how you actually implement it, and that is the way you want to get structured output out of the large language models. Obviously, you need the 0613 models or newer that support the functions interface, but I'll drop the link in the chat if you want to watch it. It's worth a watch. It's not a long video, but it's really good.
Brilliant. All right, this one's probably going to be quick. Alan, just future plan status. So we dropped the roadmaps of semantic kernel in the chat window. In the chat, if you haven't checked it out, please do so. There's basically it's public roadmap, so you can take a look at that, and also obviously the V1 stuff that's currently open for discussion board. Okay, and thanks DSL for putting this out, including it in the limited time that we have. But I guess a quick one on this was from Mohammed around, we've got use case metrics data available as backend resource. I can write a program which pull this data into JSON with this format and can be stored in vector database. Well, we've just showed you the demo just recently in there, but I think Arafat actually did a bit of a demo on that. Not necessarily kind of pulling the data out, but the answer would be around kernel memory, where you can, use kernel memory to kind of ingest and create a pipeline for that. So definitely, and also the sample implementation is also available. Not exactly kind of the use case that you're talking about here, but you could ingest a document with JSON in Chat Copilot, and then use the configuration to store that in a vector database, and then be able to chat on that. So that's a real example that you can use.
It's worth just one thing. Lamy brought up a really good point, which is yes, the model and GPT-4 is actually not too bad at this. Is able to reason over structured data, CSV, JSON, whatever. But semantic, some vector searches and embedding databases, they do a better job of reasoning over stuff that has a semantic meaning, and this does obviously a good job. This is reasonably semantic. Yeah. So another approach that I would have looked at is if you're able to tell the large language model, hey, you have access to these data sources and you can go and access them via functions or plugins or whatever it is, and a user says, give me an average of the amount of data that was uploaded over the last 5 days or whatever. A planner might go and say, well, you've given me access to a calculation function and a function that allows me to pull this data from a traditional data store. I don't care what it is, but I'm going to be able to pull that. That might be a better approach, because it feels like, the user's not really needing, you don't need to use semantic meaning to pull this data, right? To select the data to actually retrieve. You just need to know, what do they care? It's almost more traditional. You kind of like maybe over, a simpler method might be easier.
Yeah,
like,
maybe
I know
something. Yeah.
So I know we're going over, so I'll be real quick. I can do a demo next time if you like. Like using like data frames and Python and stuff to go and rip that stuff out of like a CSV file and just generate graphs and do all sorts of cool stuff. Mohammed's going to reach out to me on Discord anyway, but yeah, maybe I can do a demo next time, because what DSR said is as usual, right?
I'd love to see the demo. This Lammy's committed. He is recorded, by the way.
Ain't no thing.
Good stuff. All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. It's fantastic to see all the demos, and we are running out of time. We already ran out of time. And thanks again to Jim, as well as Arafat, for showing their amazing work recently. So looking forward to, I guess, seeing more demos in the future. Feel free to just fill in the form. I'll post the link as well on LinkedIn and so on, in Discord. Please keep an eye on that. Cool. Thank you very much for everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.